Hi, I'm Chad Pinkerton, Pinkerton Law Firm. We're here talking about the Vegas shooting. Tonight's subject will be negligent infliction of emotional distress claims, better known as a PTSD claim. Many lawyers do not understand this claim. I'm handling hundreds, even over 1,000 of these claims. I've handled them in the past. I was one of the first lawyers to take a PTSD-only case in Texas and win without a physical injury. I have the experience on how to handle this, but here's the more important thing. I understand exactly how important these claims are, how serious these claims are. People that are emotionally harmed are going to need help, not only now, but in the future. They're going to need future medical and treatment. They're going to need medical monitoring. And if they have a claim and it's a justified claim, they should be able to bring that claim and be compensated for it. So in the future, they have the money to pay for it. If they don't get it from the defendants, guess where the money's coming from? It's going to come from the state and federal government. The state and federal government should not be responsible to pay for injuries in the future related to what MGM, Mandalay Bay, CSC, and Live Nation did. So today we're going to talk about PTSD. It's very important to me. I'm excited about this conversation. Joey, why don't you kick us off?
All right, thank you, Chad. We are live here on Facebook, so if you have any questions or comments or discussion that you'd like to put in the chat, we will be monitoring that and we will try to cover anything that you start discussing. If you have something personal that you'd like to bring up to Chad or something we don't cover tonight, you can always email us at lasvegas@chadpinkerton.com. We've also got a lot of other videos that we've recorded in the past, and we cover a lot of information over there. So if you want to go to mandalaybayvictims.com, you can see any of the other topics that we have covered in the past. You're going to want to look for the knowledge base, and that's going to give you a whole lot of videos that you can view. Chad, I do want to start tonight off with you telling me a little bit about some of the terms that we should be familiar with. One of the terms I want to know is, what is negligent infliction of emotional distress?
Okay, so negligent infliction of emotional distress is the legal term for which a PTSD is brought. So if you have an injury, which is an emotional injury, and that emotional injury was caused by another's negligence, then you can bring a claim for those injuries and recover damages. That's just the legal term for how a person gets to that emotional recovery and compensation. Most states have this. Some states are more restrictive. Other states are less restrictive. Nevada is a very good state. They recognize, the legislatures recognize the importance of being able to bring this claim. So the law is very good in Nevada for a plaintiff on a negligent infliction of emotional distress claim.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. So then can you also define for me, what is PTSD?
Post-traumatic stress disorder. So PTSD is a claim under negligent infliction of emotional distress. So you have the negligent infliction of emotional distress claim. One way to provide evidence to support that claim is a diagnosis and treatment related to PTSD. PTSD is not a claim, okay? It's not a legal claim. It's just supporting evidence for that claim. And with that supporting evidence, you have a doctor that will come in and talk about the symptoms and give medical evidence related to your injuries. So why is this important? It's very important to a jury. So a plaintiff will go up and talk about their PTSD and their emotional injuries. Juries do understand that and they recognize that. But what juries also want to know these days is, what is the medical condition? Why was the treatment in the past necessary? Why will this person need treatment in the future? Why may this person need medical monitoring? That's what the expert's for. One way to get to that expert and give that expert credibility is treatment that led to a diagnosis so they can talk about it.
Okay. We are live here on Facebook, and so I am seeing the comments already coming in. I do want to bring up Trevor's question. He wants to know, what if I've already been diagnosed with PTSD before this incident?
Yeah, Trevor, that's a very good question, and that's not unusual. People come back from the military, people have their lives where they were impacted traumatically, and they may have PTSD, but that does not eliminate your claim. There's a rule in the law called the eggshell plaintiff rule. That means, look, the way you find the plaintiff is the way you get them. So you can't just say, well, the plaintiff was injured before, so they don't get a claim. I'll give you a great example. Car wreck. You have a back injury. You're driving down the road. You get rear-ended. The injury to your back gets worse. Okay, so you have an aggravation to your injury. You have a claim not for the original back injury, but you have a claim for the aggravation. Same thing for the emotional harm. You have PTSD. You've probably been treating it. You probably have gotten better. It's probably subsided some. And then you have this emotional event that makes it worse again. That's an aggravation. You have a claim for that. And I'll say something else and what I've brought to juries in cases like this. Trevor, your circumstance may be more serious because you had this experience and you are an individual that has suffered from this before, and then you're brought back to the place and it's worse. So you may be harmed more. So your simple aggravation may result in more harm, meaning you have to have more treatment now, you have to have more treatment in the future. So don't hesitate to bring your claim simply because you have a diagnosis in the past. Don't hide from that. There's no shame in that, and you still have a valid and enforceable claim.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Trevor, for being a part of the discussion. If anyone else has questions or comments, you can put it in the feed. We are live here. Or if you want to see where we have other videos about other topics, you can go to MandalayBayVictims.com. Look for the knowledge base section. That's where you're going to see any other topic that we have covered in the past. Or if you have a question that's a little bit more personal, you can always email lasvegas@chadpinkerton.com. Chad, we've been talking about PTSD now. I want to know, what are some of the symptoms that are included with PTSD?
Okay, PTSD has a wide range of symptoms. If you believe you're suffering from PTSD, get to a doctor, get to a therapist, get to a counselor, get to a psychiatrist, and get their professional opinion. I'm not a medical professional, but I will talk about the symptoms a little bit. They're both physical and emotional. Many people don't believe that a PTSD diagnosis comes with physical symptoms. It does. Fatigue, dizziness, stomach problems, all those things are physical. Those are physical manifestations of the problem. So some people think, oh, it's just in your head. That's not true. It's been proven not to be true. There are hundreds of studies out there where people are evaluated and they show physical symptoms. More people think it's just about the emotional, and there's certainly a huge emotional, long-lasting impact of this. I'm going to go through some of these. I don't want to forget something. I believe you people need to know what the symptoms are, so if something pops in your head, oh, that's happening to me, maybe I need to see someone. So I'm going to look down at my paper. I don't want you to think, oh, he doesn't know, but here we go. Nightmares and flashbacks, depression, anxiety, withdrawal and avoidance. That's one of the big ones. Look, I don't want to be around people. I can't be around my wife. I can't be around my children. That's withdrawal. I don't like public places. I don't like crowds. Those are fear mechanisms that come with PTSD. You have repression. That means I'm going to block memories. And it's just not the memory of what happened to you. When a person goes through repression, they not only repress the actual event, they repress other memories, childhood memories, adult memories, when they got married. That's all a part of this. Jumpiness, that means you have very anxious. If you get around something, you hear a loud noise, you may be jumpy. Irritability, anger, outburst, sudden outburst. This is like, okay, I didn't used to be like this, but now I get angry. Or I didn't used to be like this and something can flip the switch and I have this large, quick outburst. Guilt and shame, it's a huge part of it. Why did I survive and other people died? Why was I not shot and I'm just emotionally harmed? I'm ashamed that I have this emotional injury and all these other people were physically injured. That's the guilt and shame part. So that's a good idea or summary of the symptoms, but there's literally 100 different symptoms for PTSD. And really you need to see a doctor or a medical person to diagnose you and treat you properly. Not a lawyer. I've done this many times. I represent over 1,000 PTSD cases in this case. I've represented thousands before in my career. I understand it. I understand the medical. I understand the science, but I'm not a medical doctor, and don't rely on me to give you a medical opinion.
Chad, you said there are plenty of symptoms for PTSD. I want to know, do I have to have all these symptoms to be diagnosed? Do I need to have half of them? At what point should I start to seek help?
That's a great question, Joey. Of course you don't have to have all of them. Nobody ever has all of them. One symptom can be enough for a diagnosis, or 50 symptoms. The doctor, the counselor, the psychiatrist needs to evaluate you. And when they evaluate you, they can make a professional determination based on your symptoms or one symptom. There's no hard and fast rule. Look, if somebody's suffering from nightly nightmares, but they don't have anything else, well, they can be diagnosed with PTSD. That's enough. Or some people can have mild to moderate many symptoms, still diagnosed for PTSD. So a professional can help you with that. And there is no requirement of 10 symptoms or 20 symptoms or more than one symptom. It's just not the way it works.
Thank you. I want to bring it back to the chat here. There is some discussion happening, and it appears like some people are already experiencing symptoms from this tragedy. And there's some talk about people are already seeking help. If you've already been seeking help, is that going to affect bringing a claim in this lawsuit, or do I need to seek help to bring claim? How does that work?
Okay, so you don't have to go see a doctor to bring a negligent infliction of emotional distress claim. Many people don't. I mean, this was a country and western concert. A lot of country and western concerts are full of tough-minded, individual people. I'm from Texas, I get that. My whole family's like this. My dad would never go see a counselor. But that's really a poor decision, because if you want to get better, you have to go through the pain, get proper treatment, and move forward with your life. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. You're going to make it worse for yourself, worse for your family and your friends. So go see a doctor. That's the best advice I can give you. Whether you bring a lawsuit or not, go get treatment for your health purposes. But you don't have to see a doctor or a counselor or a psychiatrist to bring a claim. But let's talk frankly. If you bring a claim and you're going to tell a jury or a defendant how badly you're hurt, one way to do it is to talk about it. But another way to do it is have a professional expert be able to articulate for you what you can't articulate because you're not a medical person that has a medical degree. So that helps a lot. It'll also help you, right? I thought I had PTSD, but I really only have depression, right? I thought I had PTSD, but I only had anxiety. Two different things, okay? The diagnosis for PTSD is specific. You need a person to diagnose you. And then at the end of the day, in a lawsuit, juries, defendants, they want to hear from an expert. So it is important to the lawsuit to see the doctor, but you don't have to.
Thank you, and thank you for all the discussion happening in the chat. I appreciate all the people talking. If there's anything that you'd like to ask, we are live, so you can put it in the comments and we will try to cover it. Chad, I want to talk to you about a physical injury. That's going to be a little bit more obvious, say, to a jury or to just someone who's trying to seek help. If I'm experiencing symptoms of PTSD and I want to bring a claim, what are some things I need to keep track of to help me bring my claim forward?
So you're going to have to tell people what you went through. And that's a hard thing for a person to relive this event. It's horrible, travesty that occurred. Many, many people were physically injured, killed, and then the emotional injuries. That's a hard thing to do, to be a plaintiff in this case, to keep this going and relive the subject. But you should do it. You should stand up and say, you know what, defendants, MGM, Mandalay Bay, CSC, Live Nation, you were wrong, and we're going to unite together, and there's going to be 22,000 people that bring our claim for emotional injuries. That's what you should do. You really need to do it. People that were there, anybody that was there has a claim for negligent infliction of emotional distress. Whether you have PTSD or not, you have that claim and you should bring that claim. It's an important claim to bring. Did I answer your question, Jerry? I feel like I got off the topic there. What was the question?
The question is, what do I need to keep track of to bring a claim? And I'm going to narrow it down a little bit for you. So if I'm experiencing symptoms and I'm seeking help for it, do I need to keep track of all the doctors I'm seeing? Do I need to keep track of medical bills? What should I keep with me to help bring a claim forward?
Great, perfect. Thanks for repeating that. So you need to keep track of your doctors, of course, so a lawyer like me can go get your medical records. You can certainly get your medical records and send them to a lawyer like me, but I will go get them myself if need be. I mean, that's what I do in my profession, is to get these medical records. But here's an important thing that many lawyers that aren't experienced in these type of cases do. They forget the narrative. The client has to be able to tell the story. So if you let a year or 18 months go by before you tell the defendants in a deposition or a trial what happened to you, you're going to forget a lot. And you're going to speak in vague terms. Well, I had nightmares. I was scared in big places. You know, I feel depressed. I get angry sometimes. But what would be the better thing? Be specific. So one thing you could do is start writing down when you experience events, when you have problems. Now, that's not coming from just a lawyer. If you go see a counselor, I guarantee you they're going to tell you the exact same thing. One way to get better is to understand the problem and writing it down. If you have a bad dream, write it down right then. If you get scared in the grocery store, write it down. Keep track of the specifics, because that's where the nut and bolts are. Everybody can say, well, I felt bad, or I get angry, or I have anxiety. But if you are able to tell a story with specifics, that's much better. It helps people understand what you're going through.
Yeah, thank you for clearing that up. And thank you for everyone who is involved in the chat. If you want to see other topics that we have covered, you can go to mandalaybayvictims.com and you can see all the other videos that we have created in the past. Also, I do want to mention, if you know or if you are a person who is experiencing symptoms of PTSD, or you do know someone who is, please feel free to share this video. We do want the information out there to anyone that this might include. This is for everybody. Chad, I do want to talk to you about, you mentioned earlier people who are at the concert. Is that a requirement? Do you have to be present at the concert to bring forward a claim of PTSD? Okay,
that is a very good question. Many people have asked this question. The rule is basically close proximity. Did you have to be inside the concert? No, but if you were probably more impacted. Could you have been outside in between Mandalay Bay and the concert? Yes, and then you could still bring the claim because you were obviously affected. But if you're a mile away, or if you're safe in your home watching it on TV, or your friend was there and you were worried about them, that's not going to be a claim. And that really diminishes the importance of these cases. Some lawyers will go out there and gather up as many claims as they can, even if they're very weak and they don't make sense in the medical field. I don't do that. If I'm going to bring a PTSD claim, it's going to be accurate. It's going to be important to tell someone what you're suffering from. I'm not going to have clients a mile or 2 miles away, or I had a person call me the other day that they're watching it on TV from Hawaii. That's not going to be a claim. That's not close proximity. But there's no hard and fast rule of where you had to be. Is it 100 feet or 500 feet or a mile? There's no hard and fast rule. It depends on how you were impacted. But there is a general rule that talks about close proximity.
Of course, thank you. And thank you for everyone who is involved in the chat. Chad, so that was a more focused look at if you need to be at the concert. But more generally, who can bring forward a claim for PTSD?
Well, the claim is negligent infliction of emotional distress. One of the types of evidence you can bring to support that is a PTSD claim. So let's just talk about emotional distress. Anyone that had emotional distress related to this event that was in close proximity of the event can bring the claim. Anybody. You don't have to go to the doctor. You don't have to have a physical injury. If you have an emotional distress claim, you can bring that claim on your own with no other claims. So if you were in the concert, yes, you can have a claim. If you were close by, you can have a claim. The real question is do you have emotional distress that the law will support to give you compensation? That's the real question. In order to get an answer to that, you need to talk to a lawyer, let them evaluate it, and they would say, hey, okay, I'll take your case or I won't take your case. That's the way it works. So earlier I said, don't rely on my medical information related to symptoms. You can rely on me on legal issues. So if you called my law firm and you told me this is where I was and this is how I've been affected, I can tell you, you have a good claim for negligent infliction of emotional distress, or I'll tell you, you don't have a good claim and I won't take your case.
Of course. And there's plenty of discussion happening in the chat. If you have a question that you'd like to bring up and ask Chad, we will be more than happy to try to cover it. Chad, earlier, a second ago, you just mentioned compensation for a PTSD claim. Can you elaborate, how would a PTSD claim get compensated?
Okay, so you're compensated under the law for the emotional distress that you are experiencing. That is one damage piece to PTSD, or negligent infliction of emotional distress. You also can get the pain and suffering in the past and pain and suffering that you may have in the future. You can get medical damages, that's your medical bills in the past, and we can have estimated medical bills in the future. We can have a number of other different claims. For instance, let's say you have PTSD and you can't work anymore. That's not unheard of. If you become disabled because you can't work because of the emotional harm and the impact that's having, you can have a lost wage claim in the past and a lost wage claim in the future. Just because this is an emotional injury that may have physical manifestations doesn't mean that you're not entitled to all the damages that are available under the law. So what it means is, how has it specifically impacted you? Do you need specific medical in the future? Do you just need medical monitoring? Specific to you, a lawyer, a good lawyer, will apply the damage model and then ask for a certain amount of money that a jury would award. You don't want to ask for something outrageous, but you don't want to ask for too little, because you're going to need the treatment, and we want to be able to compensate for that. And MGM and these defendants should compensate for that. They're the people that are responsible for paying the freight. Okay? They did the harm, they should pay the freight. They're not going to want to do that. They're going to diminish the importance of your claim. But let me tell you, there is no lawyer in the country that knows more about PTSD claims. There is no lawyer in the country that's better at handling these claims. I know exactly how to handle these claims, and I'm able to communicate to a defendant and a jury exactly how bad this is. But don't let anybody diminish the fact that you have an emotional injury. Don't you dare. Just because you weren't shot doesn't mean that you weren't harmed. Okay? That is the fact. That's the way I look at it. That's the way the world is starting to look at it. This is a real problem.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone involved in the chat. I do see some people like Paige. She's very active right now. Thank you for being involved, Paige. And she says that she is suffering some of these symptoms, but she is seeking help, so that is good. I do want to know, though, Chad, what about people in other states? So if I was to bring a claim, is this a class? I know we've covered this in the past, but is this a class action lawsuit, or do I need to go and talk to a jury about my PTSD to bring forward a claim?
Okay, so this is not a class action. It's a mass tort. There is a lawyer, that is a very good lawyer, that filed a class action for PTSD claims that weren't treated. You don't have to be a part of that class. That class is yet to be certified, but the way I would look at it is, you're an individual. Your claims are specific. Your claim should not rely on some class representative that's going to go in front of a jury and get a judgment and award, and then that judgment is applied to you. Yours should be based on your damage. So what a mass tort allows you to do is have your individual claim. And if I try 10 cases and all the people before lose, never has happened in my career, but let's just say I've tried 10 cases and they all lose, and you're number 11, doesn't matter what happened before. You still get your day in court to explain to the jury just how badly you're injured, because it doesn't matter what somebody else did or had or what happened to them or what the jury decided for them. No, you get your own individual claim. So this is my advice. Bring a claim individual under the umbrella of a mass tort. Let a mass tort lawyer like myself handle your claim so I can individualize your claim. That's what we do in my law firm. I don't just load you into a spreadsheet and put your name and phone number in your diagnosis like most lawyers do and just lump you into a group and take a little bit of money for everybody in the group and make money for myself. That's not what I do. I'm going to individualize your claim. Ask my clients. I mean, I'm asking for medical records. I'm asking for diaries. I'm asking for journals. I'm getting their stories. I'm doing everything on a daily basis to make sure I can individual claim. Pictures, social media, text messages, all those things are important to make it important to the jury about you. It's about you. It's not about everybody else. So find a lawyer that's going to work on your case like it's the only case they have. That's what we do here. Now, I certainly can't spend all my time on every single case, but I have a staff that knows how to handle this. I have lawyers that know how to handle this. And when your case comes up, I will certainly know about your case.
Thank you. I'm going to bring it back to the chat here. Andrea is asking, or maybe it's Andrea, sorry, but Andrea would like to know who figures out compensation-wise how much is awarded. Does a judge figure that out, or are you going to figure that out? Who figures out the compensation for each person?
Okay, so there's two different ways to look at that. Okay, let's say we go to trial. What happens is there is a jury charge, and in the jury charge, the jury gets to decide whether you were harmed, whether that harm was done by negligence of one of the defendants, and then how much each one of the defendants owe you for whatever the harm was. So ultimately in a trial, and this will be a jury trial, you can have bench trials too, but not in a case like this, always a jury trial. You will have 12 in a box that will decide your damages for you. They will listen to all the evidence. I will tell my side of it with you and your experts, and the defendants will come in and say, hogwash, they're not heard, it's all BS. Why are they whining? And they will have their experts and say that you're a whiner, and then the jury gets to determine who's telling the truth. And once they decide that, they get to determine what the value of the case is. Here's another thing. People don't understand this. For any negligence case in Nevada, you get punitive damages. That's beside the actual harm that was caused to you, your medical bills past and future, your pain and suffering in the past and future, all of those types of damages. You get damages to punish MGM. And you know what? These defendants need to be punished. And the one way they can get punished, where they don't want to get punished, if 22,000 survivors bring claims, they're getting punished. The flip side of this is we don't go to trial and we settle the case. All right, 95% of all cases in America are settled. They're not tried. This case will likely be tried. I'm excited about doing it. I'm on the trial team. I'm going to be on the steering committee. I hope I'm on the executive committee. I'm going to be involved in this. Nobody's working harder than me on this case. So I'm looking forward to my opportunity in court to represent you folks. But if we settle the case, I will present, based on your individual claims, a damage model and give a number, a value to the case, to the defendant based on my experience and based on your injuries. The defendants will come back and they'll say, well, you know, it's not worth that much, it's worth pennies and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a negotiation process where we try to come to some reasonable agreement. If we're able to reach an agreement on your claim, then we settle the case for that value. Here's the great thing about settlement. Even though I want to try every case, obviously I don't have time in this lifetime to try all the cases I handle. But I would if I could. But here's the great thing about settlement, and most lawyers won't tell you this. You are in charge of when and how much you settle the case. A lawyer cannot decide for you. your settlement value or when or how much you settle. If you've got a lawyer and you look in their contract and it says that they can settle your case without your permission, call them, email them, write them a letter, and fire them, and get a lawyer that won't do that. Because what they want to do is get 1,000 cases, get 5,000 a case, and then settle the case and take their 2,000 and force you to take the 3,000 minus the expenses. That's not the way to handle these cases. To me, in my mind, that's unethical. You deserve an individual claim. That's what we do at my law firm. That's what we try to do for our clients. That's my job, to individualize your claim and do it for you. But the settlement, you get to choose. The risk is going to trial and let the jury choose. And let the jury have that choice. There's risk in that. Juries go both ways. I don't care how good the lawyers are. They go both ways. Sometimes you think you did a great job and the jury comes back and pours you out. Sometimes you think, well, man, I did a shitty job, and guess what? They come back and they give you a bunch of money. You don't know. Sometimes it's a crapshoot with the jury. I respect the jury. I think it's the best system in the world. But by settling the case, you take it out of the hands of someone else and you choose the value with the advice of a lawyer, but the lawyer does not choose for you.
Thank you for clearing that up. And thank you, Andrea, for being active in the chat and asking questions. If anyone else has questions, please drop them in there. We will try to cover it. You can also email lasvegas@chadpinkerton.com, or you can also see any of the other videos that we have covered at MandalayBayVictims.com. And there's a lot of topics there that you can share with people who are interested. If you know someone with PTSD or someone going through any of these symptoms, please do share this. This is information for everybody, and we do want everyone to be a part of this discussion and to know their options. I'm going to bring it back to the chat here, Chad. Myrta is asking, are there different levels of claims for PTSD? Say for somebody who was there at the concert versus somebody who maybe left the event or went to seek refuge somewhere, as opposed to someone who was maybe helping at the concert as well. Are there different levels of PTSD?
Thanks, Myrta, for the question. I think it's a very good question, and it's actually very intuitive. Yes, of course there's different levels. Are there any set levels that are defined, and this is how we do it? No. A lawyer will look at it as severe, moderate, or mild, and there's some in between. Some people won't even fit in the severe category. They will be outside of that group because theirs are so much different than someone else's. But yes, that will affect the compensation. If you have a severe claim for PTSD with the symptoms that support that, then your claim should be compensated differently than somebody that has a mild claim. Now, you said something about, hey, do I have to be there, or is my claim simply better because I was in the concert versus standing outside the concert? No, that's not the way it works. What we look at is the emotional trauma and the symptoms and the effect it has had to you personally. But let's be frank about it. I think a jury will probably look at a case where somebody was in the concert where the bullets were raining down, and what these people were doing to survive and what they were seeing while they were trying to survive as more impactful. So a jury would say, you know, they were inside the concert, they were in actual danger, they were afraid for their lives, they saw certain things, so they should be compensated more than somebody that was maybe standing across the street. That's just a fact. There is no rule on that, that's just a fact.
Thank you, Chad, and thank you, Myrta, for being involved in the chat. Chad, I do want to ask, some of the symptoms that you mentioned with PTSD is withdrawal and depression, lack of energy. Some of these things might affect an individual wanting to bring a claim. I want to know, can someone else bring a claim for you?
Well, no, somebody else cannot bring your claim for you unless you're a minor. If you are a minor under the age of 18, then it'll be your parents or your guardian that brings the claim for you until you turn the age of maturity. That's the way that works. But if you're an adult, you got to bring your own claim. Somebody else can't bring it for you. But here's the deal. Call a lawyer, tell them about your symptoms, and let the lawyer go to work. It's not like it's going to be a lot of work on you. We're not going to be calling you every single day. You're not going to have to fly in for a deposition or go to a trial. 99.99% of the people out there will never be deposed and will never be required to go to trial. So let the lawyer do the work. I know how to do this work. Call my law firm and I'll tell you what kind of claim you have, and if I want to take your claim and assist you, I will let you know. There'll be some things up front that you'll need to do. Tell me about your story, provide me information, give me pictures and text messages that you may have that occurred around the time of the event, video, and then go about your business. Go get some treatment. Focus on your life and your family. Get better, and I will do the legal work for you. You're going to hire me and pay me at the end of the day because you trust me to do the job. And I'm going to do the job. I know how to do this job.
Thank you for being involved in the chat. And I hope that that did also answer your question, Andrea, about if you live in another country or if you live in another state, that you probably will not have to come to Las Vegas or wherever the trial is being held. We also did cover that in another video, so if you want to go to MandalayBayVictims.com, look for the knowledge base, and you can see answers to that question and a lot of other questions that we have covered. Chad, I do want to, we've talked a lot today, but I do want to know about, is it worth my time to bring forward a PTSD claim?
Joy, let me go back to Andrea first, because I think it's an important point.
Sure.
I've got clients all over the country. I got clients from Ireland. I got clients in California. I've got clients from Mexico. I've clients from Hawaii. They're all over the place, okay? The good thing about the law says, look, we understand that people will come to a venue from all over and they can bring their claim in Nevada, but the claim has to be done in a convenient way for the plaintiff also. So the fact that you live someplace else and you may have to do a deposition, which is highly unlikely, but if you did, we, the lawyers on the plaintiff side, can say, you know what, you want to depose somebody in Ireland or Canada or Mexico, let's go to Mexico and let's depose them. I don't have to bring you to Nevada. I don't have to bring you to Houston, Texas. It needs to be convenient for you too. Just like when the defendants say, you know what, we have our witnesses, we want you to come to us. Yeah, we have to come to them. I mean, I'm in Houston, Texas, but I'm going to spend the next 2 years or 18 months in Nevada on a regular basis. That's because it has to be convenient for the defendants also. But it needs to be convenient for you. So don't worry about that part, like you're going to have to fly all over the country and be drugged back to Las Vegas where you don't want to be because of the things that happen to you there. I get it, but that's not a requirement. All right, so let's go to this worth thing. Lawyers that don't understand the value of the compensation that's necessary for a negligent infliction, emotional distress claim, or a PTSD symptom claim will destroy the case. They'll get you very little money. They will sock a bunch of people together and they'll take some money and all they're looking for is their fee. That's not me. I believe these claims need to be maximized, not because of the fee I'm interested in. I've done these cases. I care about emotional distress cases. I think they're a very important narrative that has to be told in cases like this. People need to step up. 22,000 people need to step up. All of you folks call me and I will handle your case. They're important cases. And the value is, what compensation do I need in the past and what compensation do I need in the future? No different than an injury case. They should be treated no different. So it's absolutely worth your time to get that compensation so you can be taken care of. That's what needs to happen. You need to make sure you have the mental health professionals that can help you in the future. That costs money. Not everybody's got insurance. Not everybody's rich enough to just go on their own. We don't know what the insurance structure is going to be like in America in 10 years. You need this money for that. Here's the other thing. Is it really all about compensation? Not for me. It's probably not for you. You're probably pissed that some company did this to you and allowed it to happen. Well, if you're angry or you're upset or you want justice, speak up. You can't just sit there and do nothing and expect people to hear you. Speak up. So how do you speak up? Call a lawyer like me. There's other lawyers that can do this, but there's few that can do it like I can. Call me. I can help you. I can speak for you. I can make sure that you have a voice in this litigation and what's going to change from this litigation, and I promise you, there's going to be universal security change across America because of this case. It's important. Be a part of it. To answer it, Joey?
I believe you did. I also believe that is all the time that we have for tonight. I do want to thank everybody who was involved in the chat. I do want to mention, again, if you know anyone suffering from these symptoms with PTSD, please share this information with them. It's always good to try to help people. If you have something that we didn't cover, you can try to find the information at mandalaybayvictims.com. Look for our knowledge base, and we do cover a lot of other topics there. And if there is something that you would like to ask, you can also email lasvegas@chadpinkerton.com, and that's where we can try to get to other questions we didn't cover tonight. Chad, is there any final statements that you'd like to give?
All I would say is these claims are very important. And at the end of the day, these claims should be 22,000 strong. Not 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000. 22,000 people should come together and say, you know what, this is wrong, and you should be punished. That's what I think should happen. I hope you do too. Thank you for coming out.